Hi guys. So today we are talking about Satan. Recently there is a new narrative, and we say EKWENSU is not Satan. We say ESU is not Satan. But who is Satan? You cannot compare something you understand with something you don't understand, because you have to get the understanding of both in order to make your comparison. So you are not wrong to say EKWENSU is not Satan. You are not wrong to say ESU is not Satan. But what does it insinuate? What are you trying to say? What are you trying to mean about Satan? Because recently we came to realize that these characters, which has been misrepresented for quite some times, with a wrong narrative we've carried over time, and all of a sudden we came to realize that these are actually important characters, important deities in our traditions. And now we are too quick to withdraw the earlier conceptions, the mentalities we hold over these characters, over these deities. But when we say EKWENSU is not Satan, does that mean that Satan is evil? Does that mean that you understand what Satan actually means? Does that mean that when you pick out EKWENSU from that circle, pick out ESU from that circle, does that mean that Satan remains within the circle? I think it's safer to say EKWENSU is not evil. EKWENSU is not the embodiment of evil. ESU is not the embodiment of evil. Rather than saying EKWENSU is not Satan, because it implies that you have a proper understanding of the meaning of the word Satan. So what is Satan, or who? The word Satan is a Hebrew word, Hasha'an, the adversary. The adversary is necessary. Who is the adversary, or what is the adversary? Adversary is the opposition, the accuser, the challenger, the questioner, the one who stands against, the one who challenges. The ones who always stand to object emotion. The one who demands proof. The one who demands accountability. The one who always disagree, so that truth can be purified. Because the yardstick to measure truth is pressure, is challenge, is question, tension. Any truth that survives tension is truth. But any truth that cannot survive questioning, challenging, and tension is just propaganda. No matter how much they present it to be, no matter how many people support it, no matter how many people, accepted it. Truth have to withstand pressure. That is why we have opposition parties. The adversary in law, the adversary questions. In science, the adversary challenges ideas. So, ideas are not just accepted. Ideas are not just accepted in science. They have to challenge it. You have to prove it. In law, you have a lawyer defending and another lawyer accusing, and a higher lawyer observing from above, making decisions from the point, counterpoint, from that tension, from that argument. There has to be that system. There has to be that tension in order for truth to be known. The chief judge would have just looked at the whole case and just make his or her decision and get on with it. But there have to be a point, counterpoint. There have to be an accuser. There have to be a challenger and a defender as well. In systems, look at in database management system, for instance, when you set up a structure, you lay down your tables in maybe relational tables and in their dynamics. You don't just carry on because you've laid down your structure. You begin to scout. You begin to question that system. You begin to challenge it. Begin to scout for errors, scout for anomalies, scout for redundancies, scout for inconsistencies. Why? You want to purify, you want to perfect your structure. Not because you just want to antagonize it. That questioning is necessary. Look at, even in the human mind, when you're about to make a decision, there's always a voice, a subtle voice that asks you a question. It says, are you sure? That's why when people say, on a second thought, I decided to. In other words, there's a second thought, there's a primary thought that makes decisions. And then there's a second thought that challenges the primary thought. Are you sure that the decision you're making is correct? Are you sure you're ready to do this? And the primary thought has to prove to the second thought that the decision is making is right. And with that, there will be tension, there will be arguments, there will be controversy. And within that tension, truth will arise. Sometimes, if the primary decision is actually right, there will be confidence, there will be safety. And some other times, if the decision is not actually strong, the second thought will prove to the first thought that there is danger, and you have a step back and you have a rethink. That second thought has saved you more times than your blind decision making. From dangers ahead. So the opposition is necessary. That's why we have opposition parties. Okay, look at the war in heaven. When they say Lucifer challenged God, Lucifer and his followers challenged God, and there was a war. Why was it possible for there to be a war? Why was it possible for Lucifer to challenge God? I don't think it was an accident. I think it was a design. I think it was meant to be. I think God, if God didn't allow it, it wouldn't have happened. It wouldn't have been possible. I think it's about the structure of the system in heaven. The structure that allows the opposition party to challenge the ruling party. So that decision making will be checked. So that power will not be misused. So that there will be less corruption. There will be less tyranny. So I think the kingdom of heaven or the kingdom of God might not just be a location or a place. Can perhaps be a structure, a system of authority, system of rulership, a kingdom. When they say this, the kingdom is within you. In other words, it's something that exists within the human consciousness, the human mind. Because there have to be some times like when the decision making, you have different thoughts going on in your head, different voices speaking in your head, different dialogue, different deliberations, different arguments. Is it right? Is it not? Will it help? Will it solve the problem? And there's elders, sittings. That's why they tell you that there's elders in heavens. 24 elders. That means there are council of elders sitting, deliberating, making decisions. That means it's not a place where one authority just speaks and is final. It is a structure. That is why you hear these terms. As above, so below. As it's done here, that is how it's done there. So if we can have structures, so we can have legislators, we can have Senate, we can have House of Assembly, House of Representatives, and decision-making process before the presidents take the final say. That means that is a structure. And we'll have things like impeachment. When you think like that the ruling party is not doing very well, you impeach the sitting authority. In military, it's called coup. You overthrow. And that was what happened in heaven. And that is the role of the opposition, the role of the challenger. It's not actually an impure rebellion. It's a system to keep power in check, to keep systems in check, in order for powers not to be misused. So much have gone wrong today because we don't question decisions. A lot of things happen and they are unchecked. We just get on with it. We just live on with it. So the adversary is actually necessary, and that is what Satan represents. In Catholic Church, there was an office, there was a position called promoter fidei, the promoter of the faith, generally known today as the devil's advocate. Now, the role of the devil's advocate was for proper checking to ensure that decision makings are actually accurate when it comes to sainthood. The lifestyle the person lived has to be investigated through this office of the devil's advocates. They have to they have to carry on an investigation to ask questions about this person. Is there anything this person have done that is contrary to the life of a saint? That is why that office was created. And also to carry on investigations about miracles, so that we don't have false claims that this is a miraculous work. They investigate: is this an actual miraculous healing? Was this person taken to an hospital for a medical process, and now they are claiming it's a miracle? Things like that. They have that system. Some time ago, it was Pope John Paul II that abolished that system, saying it's a slow process. But the original reason why that system was instituted was that decision making was too fast. They have to take their time thoroughly to check, to be sure. So that truth will have to stand pressure. A truth that cannot stand pressure is a propaganda. You understand? That is why we have to challenge truth. We have to challenge truth. That's why the second thought will have to challenge the first thought to make sure that that decision you're making is actually a perfect decision or the right decision. So that is the meaning of the character called Satan. Today it has been personified as, the devil, someone who represents evil, the embodiment of evil. That is not what Satan means. The same way EKWENSU has been misrepresented, the same way ESU has been misinterpreted, that is the same way Satan has also been misrepresented. So you see, when you say EKWENSU is not Satan, ESU is not Satan, it implies that you understand what Satan means. You have to know who Satan is to compare Satan with something else. You have to be sure. You have to be aware that this is what this character represents. Not just the way you've been, pre-programmed. Not just an inherited meaning. So if you can have a shift in perception about EKWENSU, if you can have a shift of perception about ESU, you can also do the same about Satan. Because three of them face the same predicament. So you see, don't be too fast to say EKWENSU is not Satan, ESU is not Satan. It's safer to say EKWENSU is not evil, ESU is not evil. Thank you.